What makes this defense so good from San Diego State?
Very, very talented. Move extremely well. They have good size up front. And, God, they're an area, I think it's a little bit like asking what makes the defense at USC so good. You know, the location definitely helps, I think, where you are. You know, there are times in recruiting they have kids that go to their school rather than going to, you know, even Pac-12 schools or Big 12 schools just because of the proximity to home.
Would you say they've been the best Mountain West team in the past maybe 5-6 years?
Perhaps.
Do you feel like it's been the toughest matchup for your teams over the past 6-7 years?
I don't know about that. I mean, we've played a lot of good teams, and we're playing a lot of really, really good teams going forward too. But they're really, really a strong program.
And then with the Chapman out and now the running back, the tailback out as well, what have you seen from the second guys?
I'll just tell you bluntly, I'm not so sure at tailback they aren't much more dynamic. I mean, you look. And the other guy was a tremendous player and a guy that'll play down the road a ways. But, I mean, you look at the guy that played the other day, the freshman from Albuquerque, and what do you have, 3 carries for 78 yards? I mean, it doesn't take much to do the math to realize that's a decent yards per carry. And then the other guy had a bunch of carries against Arizona State. I think he had like 18 carries for 125 yards. I mean, against Arizona State had like 18 carries for 125 yards. And then at quarterback, just a guy that he knows where to go with the ball, and they hold on to the ball. You know, that's the part that I think they do an excellent job with their offense. You look up front. Every one of those guys up front, they're 315, they're 320, they're 6'4", 6'5". Just a superb offensive line.
When you look at their quarterback play, do you see any signs of what Blaine Morgan – are there any common principles, I guess, that they're showing that maybe Blaine Morgan has been able to bring to that program?
Golly, you know, there are so many similarities, I think, to what they're doing now, to what they did in you know, in, say, 2012, 2010, you know, you think of I'll tell you the part. I remember in 2010, you know, when they had Ryan Lindley, they had a superb tailback that was drafted and played up the road, Ronnie Hillman, and just sensational balance, you know, that year. And yet what they have is, I mean, just very, very complete. I mean, they are – when it comes to gifts and speed and size and ability, they're playing with some pretty good guys. And I don't know if maybe it's only in the sport of football. Like if you go to the winter, how have they been? You know, that'd be something where somebody else would have to follow. I know they had a guy. I think they had a guy that played. Yeah, they've had a few guys that have played there. They had one that was with the Spurs, and I think he went to Toronto or something. I mean, they've just, you know, they've had some pretty talented guys in a number of sports. You know, you look in baseball, you know, you get, I mean, it doesn't hurt a little bit in terms of location. You know, I think probably, I don't have it in front of me, but if you went within a 200-mile radius, you know, if you went out to, you know, you went down to Trinidad, if you went down to Trinidad and could drive up to Fort Collins, north of Fort Collins, and you had 20 million people, I mean, would we be recruiting nationally? I guess we probably still would.
Can you kind of walk me through the protocol on a play like when Donald Hammond went down with when he got hit in the head? What happens over the next couple minutes, and what was the decision process to get him back in the game?
It's between our medical and our training staff, and it's they tell us the status of a player and the steps that they use that it involves any player.
Do you like to look in his eyes as well before he goes out, or is it just a trust?
Yeah, because no. Those are two different things. You know, for a guy, absolutely. I mean, for a guy to be medically cleared doesn't mean he's going back into the game. The medical part, that's the first box that has to be checked. And then the second is a decision as a staff whether or not that guy's going into the game.
Okay. And I see the depth chart you released this week has Donald Hammond bold and no one else bold. It's the first time this year you've done that. I mean, is that pretty indicative of
Nope,
your.
we'll see who goes out there first this Friday night.
Coach, you got 2 weeks of Friday night games. Does that kind of help you in your preparation?
This obviously is a short week. I mean, we have crammed a lot of work here into, which we have to, preparation-wise. Saturday night was really, really short. To turn around and come back in early on Sunday, and it was sitting right outside the gate. Thought, do we go in the south gate or we wait until 5:30 for that north gate to open on Sunday morning? It's a I think okay once in a while is a change up. I think that's okay. I love the preservation a little bit on Friday nights where there's a level that's able to play on Friday nights. There's a level that plays on Saturdays and a level that plays on Sundays. And really don't like to take away from those other ones. Yet, you realize there's an opportunity there in terms of some exposure and that makes it a little bit unique.
In the second half, when your offense really was in a rhythm and sustaining drives, how important was that for Donald's growth, or is important for Donald's growth?
It's a half. There are a bunch of halves, as we move forward. Like any time you look, do you reduce? I always look at, how do you reduce sacks, minus yardage plays? Now, you could take a knee every snap or run quarterback sneak every snap, I guess, to do that. Fumbles, interceptions, incompletions. Those are the things. How do you reduce and then how do you create some, not just 2 and 3 yard gains, although that's part of football. How do you have some gains that extend, that are 8 and greater? You got to have more of the one than less of the other. And when you do that, then you're better. You're in more manageable third downs. You don't have as many third downs because, first and second down has a little more length to it. And that's the way we have to play.
But the game experience is probably the best way for him to improve on the avoiding the
there's a lot of
sacks
growth and a lot of improvement that we have to make. There is no doubt about that. I mean, you look across the board, and I think more than anything else is understanding how you come out of a game. How do you utilize that experience? And, that's for everybody in our organization. We're talking about our trainer. There's something there he's going to want to make sure he learns and pulls from that game experience-wise, from a coach, from somebody that's playing out at tight end or the holder, the deep snapper, the up back on punt, just every one of those roles. That's the beauty of playing. And I think more than anything else, I mean, anybody can play one game. I mean, you're worked up and, you got a little different juice going through you. It's more pushing through, learning. It's the grit, it's the persistence, and it's a long-haul development improvement.
I would assume of your 3 quarterbacks, they all have different skill sets, and some are better and stronger in certain areas. With each week, do you look at your opponent and say, okay, he may succeed against them, and then the following week it's another guy? Is that kind of how you guys approach
question.
it?
Absolutely. I mean, they're pretty accurate. I think that's always something you're taking into consideration. Yes, sir, you do.
Saucier breaking the run, and he seems to have that knack. I mean, is that going to help him get on the field a little more, and where does that position currently kind of stand?
Well, I mean, we're not having just one guy play 70 snaps. I'll tell you what, to have as a back, I think you better have at a good number of positions, it's good to have a couple of guys involved. And I thought Nolan Erickson did a heck of a job in the fourth quarter. I mean, he did. He went in there and had some hard interior runs and drugged some tacklers and helped us eat up a chunk of that fourth quarter. But, for him to get his, to cross the goal line, the initial time that he has in college football, And for him to play, I mean, I think so much of it, you can't wait to go back out there today in pads. I tell you, after any game, you go watch a Tuesday practice, you learn so much about a guy. You do. You get later in October, you learn so much about a guy and how much football really means to him. I think first week or two, the weather's really warm and the smoke out of the tunnel has some highlighters in it. I mean, it's fancy. The socks and the shoes are dazzling. And then you just kind of wonder once all that air goes out of that balloon and now you crunch away and have the discipline to go work at football.